Welcome back to the AI Shift with Scott. I'm Scott. As I said yesterday, I wanted to tell you a little bit about that project that got me started about 15 months ago. Now, I wish I kind of took some more notes back then about what I was doing. I didn't, so this is from my memory. And since I do this work for a number of years, I know the general steps. Where AI came in and helped me was the big surprise that I really want to tell you about. I needed to get some work done very quickly. I had a deadline that I normally was following, but something had changed in the processing pipeline, and it made it so that I had to get the work done a lot more quickly. There were some parts of the process that were just very time-consuming and laborious. The typical way I would solve a problem like that would be to make sure that all of my things were working, and then I might go do some work on the internet, some research. I'd go to Google, I would go to YouTube, I would look for things that might help me get exactly what I'm looking for. And these are very good resources even today. What's missing from the process, though, is how directly, specifically, your question is being answered by somebody who's posted something on the internet or a YouTube video. It may not be in line, and you might have to do some digging. What's really different now by using AI is its ability to really zero in on exactly what you're looking for. Here are a few details of specifics to give you a sense of what I'm doing, but you could swap in how this could be done in your own work. This is a practical example for you to just kind of learn and borrow from. I was downloading a bunch of data, and I mean dozens and dozens of downloads. And that process in itself was pretty laborious and had its own limits that I could not figure out a way to get past. Once I had those downloads, I then needed to do a very laborious process of assembling all of them into one very large data set. I use Excel for a lot of my processing, and that process itself was very time-consuming and subject to human error. Along the way, that process, when it's done, has various checkpoints to make sure things are lining up and I'm getting where I want to go. Once that's complete, I now have a data set of raw data that I then need to start working on. And that includes a whole lot of formulas and sorting and sifting and validating. Each of these things usually takes me quite a bit of time to accomplish. The part that I was a little more concerned about this time in the pipeline was I really needed to get a hold of that data more quickly and assembled into one complete database much more quickly than my normal timeline would allow me to do. So I thought, well, let's just take a few minutes and see if there's anything I can get help from. At the time, I was using a version of ChatGPT, and it has obviously evolved quite a bit since then, those 15 months that have passed, and probably even more so when you're watching this. I asked it a simple question, and I realized that what I was asking needed a lot of thought going in, asking it that question. Nowadays, that thought process isn't quite as laborious for us. It's able to kind of figure out what we're trying to accomplish. Once I got it down, I would say in a course of about 15 minutes, a little bit of back and forth about where my roadblocks were, the things that were impediments along my throughput, along my processing. It knew exactly what it wanted to do and made some not only suggestions, but it actually did something I really was not prepared for. I had no idea that this could happen. It went out and wrote me some code, some computer language, and some prompts along the way, just verified what it is I was trying to accomplish to make sure that what it was doing was going to accomplish what I was setting out to do in the big picture. It wrote that code in a really fast time, and it made it so I didn't even know what was in the code. I just had to follow its instructions on how to deploy it, how to use it. And it made it very easy, very clear, single step by step. When I was confused, I asked it a clarifying question, and it always found a way to have me see what I needed to do next and sort of get out of my own way because it really understood exactly what needed to be done. And I was just following through on it. I want to stop here and just remember that I was very concerned at the time that it wasn't providing the right answers. It wasn't giving me good data, that it was making mistakes and errors. So I had my own little way of little pieces that I could do on my own that were quick and simple that I could use to then go back and check my work as I went. So what normally would have taken many weeks of downloading and assembling and verifying was done in a matter of about 3 hours. I could not believe how much work had gotten done and how accurate it was. I then thought, well, I'm here, I'm asking questions. Maybe I could give it one more go right now, because it assembles basically a very large data set for me in Excel. And that's exactly the endpoint that I normally would start working with when I had done that work by myself, by hand. And I thought, well, maybe I could ask for some assistance in some of the processing of the Excel file. Sure enough, it went and did that. And I realized at that moment, since it had capabilities even beyond my own thought process, that instead of pursuing it all the way through, I took a stop right there. I went back to the beginning. I added 2 additional data needs into the process that I'd been putting off. I just didn't get around to, never worked on, because they were too time consuming. And by being able to fold them into this process, by the end of the day, I had built what would normally have taken me many, many weeks. And if you add up all the data sets I was now working with, many, many months to assemble. And that's all it took for me. I was on the phone. I was calling friends and saying, I think the world has just changed. I can't believe what I just did. It was very exciting. Now, that gave me something to work on. I went and back to my work world and I did my thing and I kept going with my project. And I set the AI aside, if you will, because I wasn't in the mindset of what else could it do yet. I followed through on what I normally would do. I'll tell you, there were some ideas that did get put in my mind while I was doing that follow-on work. And that's what I want to tell you about tomorrow. The next sort of biggish project that I tackled, where the results were not just amazing, but they were beautiful as well, at least beautiful in my world. And maybe I think you'll agree too once you see it. You'll get a sense of it. I'll be here again tomorrow, and I hope you will be too.